Hey everyone, another day, another handheld, this one being the Game Kiddy Bubble. The Bubble is a Sega Game Gear inspired smaller handheld sporting a rock chip RK3566, floating around the $60 to $65 mark if you make use of the AliExpress Holiday Bliss promotional coupons running at the moment. A big thank you for AliExpress for reaching out to supply this Game Kiddy Bubble unit, and all opinions remain my own as always. So, running through the unboxing experience, the Game Kiddy Bubble has a neat 90s inspired box that simply contains the Bubble handheld itself and a quick start guide in both Chinese and English. The Bubble does have two shortcut keys which they've optimised at RetroArch to make use of straight out of the box, so it's worth a quick look-see through to get some familiarisation with what those shortcuts do. Moving on to the specs though, as mentioned, the Game Kiddy Bubble is powered by the rock chip RK3566, so that gives near flawless emulation up to PlayStation 1, while giving access to some but not all of the Nintendo 64, PSP, Dreamcast gaming catalogues, as well as some of the Saturn catalogue too, which we always love to see on these Sega-inspired handhelds. In terms of RAM, it's widely considered to have 1 gig of RAM, but I couldn't actually find this confirmed anywhere on any of the listings, so did the next best thing and did a teardown so someone smarter than me can spot the RAM chip and let us know. I'd really appreciate a comment confirming the RAM chip here, so thank you in advance for anyone who kindly takes the time to let us know. But going back to the specs, the GKD Bubble has Bluetooth and Wi-Fi alongside a 3.5-inch display at a 640 by 480 resolution, which does somewhat ironically introduce a bit of a double bezel effect when playing 1x1 Game Gear games on this Game Gear inspired handheld, but does give us room for the more intensive games it can emulate. The battery for its size is pretty impressive at a 4000 mAh battery, which gives us plenty of room for travelling with it, and the weight of around 225 grams isn't bad at all. In terms of OS, we have access to Game Kiddy's lovely child OS, as seen in their other handhelds, as well as their version of Emulation Station, which is pre-configured in some pretty neat ways. So, straight out of the box, the Bubble definitely has a strong Sega-inspired design to it, especially in its black colourway. Despite its relatively small frame, there is quite a bit going on, so from a top-down view you can see the subtly curved back design, as well as its power button, micro HDMI out, headphone jack, OS micro SD card tray, as well as one of the shortcut buttons and the inline shoulder buttons. The back and sides are relatively clear, while underneath we've got the downward-facing speaker grills, volume buttons, USB-C charge port, and the micro SD card slot for games. The recessed design on the whole really works to its favour, which gives it quite a unique look compared to other horizontal retro gaming handhelds. I actually have a Game Gear which has gone through the Sega main gear treatment and fitted with a Raspberry Pi, but I think this actually works as a potentially better guide as to what the Game Kiddy were actually aiming for in terms of its inspiration. I personally loved the Game Gear, and at the time it completely blew me away, offering all sorts of Sonic on the go, and found it quite interesting seeing them both side to side, as it made me appreciate the more subtle design decisions with the Bubble, like the smaller X and Y buttons and the bigger circular D-pad, as well as the regressed control areas. So, speaking of its controls, my unit had a sticky right shoulder button straight out of the box, which stuck in place while hitting the edges of it. It turned out that this was actually a super easy fix, as it was caused by a screw just under the shoulder button being set way too tightly. So a simple quarter turn was enough to resolve this issue for me, but I thought it'd be worth pointing out just in case others came across it. Otherwise, the joysticks are your standard Switch style fare, with the recessed nature giving it a great emphasis on the circular D-pad, which is great, but the joysticks are one of those setups where it's good to have them for when you need them, but it's great to have been designed in a way that it largely keeps them out of the way the majority of the time. The Bubble is definitely a D-pad first handheld after all. And with that said, the Bubble's D-pad does take a little time getting used to. It's obviously a circular design, which I'm personally all for, especially when it comes to Sega-inspired handhelds, but it is on the loose side. It's not that the D-pad doesn't offer precise control, as once I got used to it, it was fine, but there's quite a lot of sway in its multi-directional arc when compared to other circular D-pads I've used. The more I got used to it, the more I liked it though, so that would be my main takeaway here. Equally, with the face buttons, the size differences between the A and B buttons compared to the X and Y did take a little bit of time just to build up that muscle memory, but once I did, I didn't really mind it at all and didn't come across any practical issues when using it. The feel of the buttons aren't bad either. They're responsive and they have a very fast spring back action to them too. The double shortcut keys are quite neat once you're used to all the key combinations in play, although nothing's stopping you from remapping them if you'd need to, and overall the controls for the Bubble aren't bad at all. In terms of the out-of-the-box firmware options, the GKD Bubble will boot straight into their lovely child Linux OS, unless you press A during the boot up sequence, which it will then boot straight into Emulation Station. The language was set to Chinese out of the box for me, but this can easily be changed by jumping to the settings, which is the bottom left icon in the lovely child OS, and through the settings menu itself within Emulation Station. I've caught changing mine on camera so anyone can follow along and change their settings if they do need to. It's worth mentioning though that the ROM set was also the Asian versions of everything, so it may be easier to bring your own, but thankfully due to the Bubble having wireless, you can scrape all the box art and have access to retro achievements and the like too. I also really appreciated the optimizations on the harder emulation systems like Nintendo 64 and Saturn, which was all nice to see. So I'll cut some emulation footage now before summing up at the end. So, all in all, the Game Kiddy Bubble is a neat little Game Gear inspired handheld that makes for a good travel companion. I always find it neat to see something different, especially when it comes to horizontal handhelds, and have a lot of nostalgia from the Game Gear days anyway, so the Bubble certainly is aimed for someone like me. If you like the look of it, I'll include the links and promo codes in the description, but otherwise that's it for now. Thanks so much for watching.